Hey Faith Family, welcome to the Beyond Sunday podcast at Calvary Bible, where we go beyond the Sunday sermon to explore some rabbit holes and to bring some biblical truths to the surface. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Calvary Bible Church, welcome back. We survived the outdoor service.
We did.
Randall, glad you did not get blown away.
It was a bad hair day for me. It was bad.
That's tough. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. It was windy though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was on the windy side.
Wow.
Last year was the heat wave. This year was the wind. It's always something.
It was fun.
A lot of elements to battle.
Yeah. A lot of people enjoyed it though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of hair.
Yeah.
I have a joke for you.
All right.
A legitimate hair joke.
Oh my goodness.
How does the moon cut his hair?
Cut his hair.
I got my hair cut. Moon cuts his hair. You cut your hair.
Quarterly?
No.
I was thinking of the way the
moon
quarter moon,
faces,
half moon. But, that's the best I could come up with.
He clips it. He clips it. Just like all of us. He clips it. There you go.
I like those word plays.
Thank you.
I do. I don't like the jokes, but I love the word plays.
That was Anna's joke.
That was Anna's?
Do you like it now?
I do now.
Yeah.
I love all of her. I love all of hers.
I got the next daughter giving me jokes.
That's so cool.
The two of them have a little video on YouTube if anyone wants to go check it out. It's like a minute long. You know how you can paint or like draw a face on your chin and then you turn it upside down?
Yeah.
So Maddie tells a joke to Anna and then Anna tells a joke to Maddie, but totally boofs it. and then Anna knows that she boofs it and she starts laughing and the mouth's going crazy.
Oh.
But what makes it funny is at their age and stage of life, their teeth are not adult teeth, and Anna's in particular are just coming in. So she's got a mouth full of mess going on. So if you're seeing the chin and the mouth and the face there, it's that in itself makes me laugh. So anyway,
that's so good.
Yeah, they had a grand old time doing that. So it's probably a year old. Anyway, all right, jokes. Both daughters telling them.
That's so good.
Taking after their old man.
That's good to see.
Yeah, it is good.
And I don't mind when they're doing it. I don't. I really don't.
Clearly.
I can tolerate that.
All right, you ready to dive in here? Psalm 100.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, out of the Bible, which is great. Oh, it's a good place to start.
That is good.
You had a short amount of time on Sunday, and so I would like to grant you 1 minute to summarize the sermon for all of us. Just go back through, and you got 1 minute to do so. You ready?
Yeah. All
right, I'm timing this.
So Psalm 100 reintroduces Psalms of praise with various calls to worship, calls to praise, and then also a theological aspect to that praise that involves the theology of who God is in our relationship to Him, including these two character traits which are critical at this moment in the Psalms, in the Psalter, the Lord's steadfast love and faithfulness.
Mm-hmm. You done?
Yeah.
That was like 40 seconds.
Nice.
That was good. We didn't even need 25 minutes. You could have preached that sermon in
Sunday.
40 seconds.
I said to a couple of people, I said, oh my goodness, the way this day is going. So I was supposed to have 35 minutes on Sunday. Mm-hmm. I won't get into the reasons, but we started really late.
That'd be my fault.
And then I didn't have a clock or a watch. Last year, my screen went black because of the heat out there in the sun. The sun's beating down on my clock face on the phone, and it went dark, so I didn't know what time it was. So this year, I wasn't even going to try that. So I was way shorter than 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then
people were rejoicing.
They were. They told me that too. They were very kind to me.
I'm sure.
And then, goodness, sadly, I mean, later in the day, of course, we were all shifting gears for Bill's memorial service, and I was shooting for a 15-minute, but that service went
That was a longer
really
one.
long.
Mhm.
And so when I got up there, I thought, okay, this is going to be even shorter than that. And I
Mhm.
tried to hit that mark shorter than that. So I said to someone, I said, it's a good thing I'm not preaching a third time this day, because it would have gone from
40
30
seconds.
to 15 to 7.5 minutes. It would have been my third. So
It's been rough for you.
it was, yes.
It's been rough.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, no doubt. Very stressful.
I think I can see the people sympathizing on the other
Oh,
side.
they were sympathizing. They were like, wow.
They are.
Yeah.
Right now, they're feeling
They were
for you.
saying it was so good that it was short. Thank you for doing that. They were singing my praises.
That's how they sympathize, huh? So you use the term worship response often.
Mhm.
I don't know if I heard it on Sunday.
No.
I don't remember.
I don't
So my
think-
question is, what is
I'll
our
start that.
worship response to this psalm?
So I'm trying to just relive those opening minutes, because those are, fairly pointed.
Mm-hmm.
And this psalm functions like so many other ones, and that is we follow the calls to worship. So the make a joyful noise, serve the Lord, know that the Lord, He is God. So that's verse 1, 2, and 3 all begin that way. Verse 4, enter His gates with thanksgiving. And then finally you get a rationale for it, the 3 character traits. So really the worship response is just simply the calls to worship and then the reason for those. So it's pretty simple. And that's the way these are all functioning. I'm going to explain this on Sunday again, because what happens in Psalm 101 is that the psalmist is going to say, I will, I will, I will, I will, I will, or I will not, throughout this psalm. I forget how many I counted. I was sort of prepping already for this coming Sunday. So the call to worship, the worship response is simply follow the instructions in verse 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's the reason. So the breakdown is pretty simple. And as I've said for years with students, thinking about, how to study the Bible, how to read the Bible, and then how to communicate it, the structure is what conveys the theology. So we're kind of careful not to break the structure. So you have very specific, make a joyful noise, serve the Lord with gladness, come into His presence with singing, know that the Lord is this and this and this, enter into His gates and into His courts, give thanks to Him, bless His name. All of those are worship a variety of calls to worship.
Mm-hmm.
Then the only break is, for the Lord is good, His steadfast love endures forever, and His faithfulness to all generations.
So can I draw attention to the emotion that comes with that, the joyfulness, the gladness?
The dominant mood.
Yeah. And right, it's a psalm of thanksgiving. Why is that a difficult emotion for us to have when we're worshiping?
So this is part of I do remember this part. Toward the very end of the opening minutes, I said, some of you are prepared to worship like this.
Mm-hmm.
Some of you are not. And I gave 3 or 4 reasons why.
Circumstances.
And I really believe that I think that what makes it hard is some of our dear folk come into church and they're indifferent about the rule of God.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, and there's a couple of things I want to do depending on what you have. But one is Psalm 100 is ending this short, and I said this Sunday, it's ending a very short number of Psalms on the kingship of God over all the earth. So the first thing is, I think that our folks come into church sometimes and they're indifferent to the rule of God. And if you're listening, watching, then, you take stock of that when you come into church. Are you indifferent to God's rule, or is that the most important thing in your life? That will be determined by your understanding of the importance of the rule of God, the reign of God, the kingdom of God, His ruling power, beginning the healing process, blah, blah, blah. So, but the other reasons are, as I said, sometimes circumstances are so overwhelming that I just want relief. And that's all I can see. That is my hope. And the kingdom of God the kingship of God is not important to me right now because of my circumstances. They're just too overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
You're hoping that Sunday after Sunday, you can continue to work at that and reverse that a little bit so that my ultimate hope is not in the righting of things that are wrong in my world, but actually I'm waiting for the kingdom to come in completion. So but then the ones that I think we're all often plagued by is I need to confess my sins to God because I've sinned against him or somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
I need to confess my sins so that I'm clean with God and so that my heart can be in tune with God. Or the other one that's so hard for us sometimes, extending the need to extend forgiveness to someone that's hurt us. Those are like 4 factors that I rehearsed. I think that makes the mood, the celebratory mood, make a joyful noise, serve the Lord with gladness. That makes it really hard sometimes. And that's only a partial list, as you know. That's not exhaustive.
Yeah, no. What came to my mind as like maybe an illustration of sorts in this first couple of verses, making a joyful noise, serving him with gladness, was the 7 dwarves from Snow White, whistle while you work. So as we're going through life, whether worshiping, serving, etc., you can just get caught up in or tangled up, whether it's in one of those things that you just mentioned, sin, circumstances, etc., or just like losing sight of who God is, right? Verse 5.
Exactly.
And we can quickly fall into the kind of the emotional gutter of religiosity, just out of moral duty to serve the Lord. And, I've got to do this. Yeah. It's just what's expected of me.
Yeah, it's forced.
And we're not able to worship with, maybe a more pure emotion, a more natural emotion when we understand who God is, his steadfast love, his goodness, etc. So, okay.
The old commentator, Derek Kidner, who's so good. Whenever you read him, he's so insightful, and thankfully his stuff is short, but it's so rich. And he was the one that helped me notice that you have the make a joyful noise and then come into his presence with singing, but in the middle is the serve the Lord with gladness. And he was talking about the combination of them, and he used the term stale. And I tried to push that a little bit on Sunday to say, if it's one without the other, if it's praising without serving, or if it's serving without praising, you get this staleness because they need to function together.
Yeah.
It's a great reminder for us too, beyond Sunday, to make sure we're doing both.
Yeah. No, that's really helpful. And I'll let you rehash a little bit. Verse 3, you drew out a couple of things about who God is, the creator, controller. Anything to add there?
No, except that this is one of those times where you can see that worship is connected to you being a theologian of some degree, and know that the Lord, He is God. It is He who made us. And then the way I memorize it, maybe you did too, and not we ourselves. I didn't get into that. We didn't have time, obviously. But for now, just to realize, if you're one of those that memorize it that way, we're talking about just one difference in the consonant of these Hebrew terms. So your manuscripts are reflecting that. I like this translation's fine. He's the creator. And so remember, creatorship of you and me equals ownership. So we are not our own. We belong to Him. There's the accountability in that. And then just the benefit of being a sheep in His pasture and all that does. So it's unique in the sense that you have all of the calls to worship, but here's a call to know. Not just know about, but to know and experience God, the Lord, the covenant keeper, the self-existent, pre-existent Lord. He is God. Yeah. And by definition, and we talked about this a little bit, you talk about what is God? He's the supreme being of the universe who created and controls it. Do we believe that or not? We can test that this week. We can test that, and you should be testing that. I have to test this regularly as well. Is my Lord my God, or is there another God that's leading the way for me? And we've talked so much about this, right? The American idols that we've had on the slide with the 2 columns and so forth. So,
Yeah, a thought on that word "no."
Hmm.
I was reading Tozer this morning, and you said we need to be theologians, and you didn't say this, but I know you would. We need to be theologians that love God, not just know God from
Mm.
a mental
Yeah.
aspect. And I'm thinking too about the Hebrew understanding of that word "no." Like they didn't have a
Mm.
concept of the brain that like
No.
we do.
No.
You know God with your heart,
Yeah.
like
Your
we
whole
use that
being.
word, right?
Your
Our
whole
soul, like
being.
we know
Yeah.
him. So it's not just a mental
No.
assent to a theological status. And what Tozer was saying is, like we're all theologians essentially because we all have this understanding,
Yeah.
like beliefs about God,
Yep.
but we don't want to create just theologians. We want to create saints, which I think is that both combination, someone who knows the Lord and
Oh,
loves
that's a
the
great
Lord and
point.
obeys him.
On
Um,
our Wednesday night studies, which are always studying some kind of theological concept to supplement what happens on Sunday, every lesson ends, and in my notes, there's a gap always. It just stays there. Do I love God more as a result of knowing this about him? In this case, this
mhm.
coming Wednesday, tomorrow, Lord willing, because we're recording on Tuesdays usually, tomorrow night, Lord willing, in church, I'll talk about the sinfulness of sin from some of the old English Puritan writings and where did this come from the scriptures. And so at the end, does this make me love God more? And the answer to that is always has to be yes. It can't be just, oh yeah, we know more about God. That's just not, especially a Bible church,
Yeah.
because we're prone to that.
Yeah, which gets me to my last kind of question or point here. Just those last couple of verses too, verses 4 and 5.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't help but think about what we talk about around here. One of our values being worshipful.
Yeah.
And I think I would define that the way we think about that anyway is a sincerity behind our worship. And we're coming into the gates, entering the courts with praise. We offer him all that we are.
Yep.
Into the kind of the tabernacle temple setting,
Yep.
because of all that he is.
Yep.
And that was the verse 5 there.
Mm-hmm.
Because he is,
Yep.
and there's just a couple of those characteristics:
Yeah.
good, his love, his faithfulness.
Yeah.
And that when we have that understanding of who he is,
Yeah.
that just thrusts us into worship.
Yeah, and it's such a great point. And I don't know. What do you think? I don't think that we recognize coming to church quite like the Israelites did, heading into the temple or the, I don't think we have that, but I think that's healthy for us to recover the sense of the corporate. We're entering into the presence of God corporately. And I love the emphasis. It's his gates, it's his courts, enter his gate. So you are getting in. And then finally his courts, that enclosure, but they belong to him. So I like that part. And I think you're right about this is what drives our worship time.
Yeah. Well, and not beyond Sunday, but on Sunday, like you're just saying, when we come, I mean, in the 21st century church, our Calvary Bible Church looks like a church. Some churches look more like a traditional church than ours. Some look less. But probably the less traditional a church looks like a church, the easier it is to just enter and feel like you're entering a storefront. Yeah. Or if you're entering a high church with the stained glass and the
tall ceilings,
big majestic. Yeah, exactly. The space can help assist you to remind you of where you are and kind of what you're doing. But we can still do that, but we need to be mindful of it. Intentional, otherwise.
No, that's so true. Yeah.
We would lose it.
Can I do do you have some more stuff?
No, I'm done. I just have jokes. That's all.
Okay. But I wasn't sure what else was coming. But so a couple of things real quickly about what I'll get to it again on Sunday. I tried a little bit this past Sunday. When you get to Psalm 100, if you're reading through the Psalms, remember that now you see a title again, a superscription, a psalm for giving thanks. Very brief, but specific. This is the intention for this song, this psalm. So now when you're into Psalm 100, you're beginning to enter the heart of this thought in book 4. So remember the Psalms divided into 5 books.
Right.
1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We are now book 4 since Psalm 90. So what I'm learning, what I learned last week, and I'm learning again, I guess this week because I'm still kind of focused on it for this coming Sunday, is what is happening in book 4. So I just want to say that normally when we read the Psalms, we read them individually. And we just say wherever they are, they're just individual Psalms. But we know from the shape of it that there's a story being told. And so I want you to look for the story, because book 4 and what we're about to experience together, Psalm 101 and so forth. Now in Psalm 101, it's a Psalm of David. We've lost sight of David for a lot of Psalms. He's back again. Why is he back again now? It's because God is answering the question that I said to you last Sunday. So remember this, as you're reading the Psalms, the story is moving you forward so that you see that God has not forgotten his steadfast love and faithfulness to David.
Mm-hmm.
We know that because now here's a Psalm of David this late, and we know that this is exilic or post-exilic. They don't have a king.
Right.
These readers don't have a king anymore. So why is now a Psalm of David? So the scholars that I've been reading about the shape of Psalms says that what the authors are doing now, what God is doing, is saying, now I'm telling you, God is being faithful to his kingdom and his kingship. And so this David is actually pointing us forward to another David who is coming. And I like the fact that the Psalm is telling this story so that we don't lose hope in our exile, something you and I have talked about quite a bit actually in our conversations. And ultimately, as you get into book 5, which is going to end with all these wonderful praise Psalms, it's going to highlight the victory that we have in God. So there's a nice story being told. And I'm just saying to you, as you're reading the Psalms and as you interact with us on Sundays, remember that part of that story is now seen with the arrival again, or the reemergence of the titles, and especially King David. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a neat theory about how did these Psalms get composed together into these books.
That would be helpful, I think, to see visualized somehow.
They would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to get you on that.
Yeah, that is kind of cool.
You're a lefty. Lefties are artistic, right?
They're supposed to be.
In theory. Oh, goodness. All right, that's good. That's really helpful. We'll see what comes of that. So if you have art skills, maybe you can just tell people what to draw and then they can draw.
Yeah, they could. Yeah, I think it is a good thing to try to do. Yeah, just remember, beyond Sunday with a Psalm like 100, make a joyful noise unto the Lord. All of that for you and for me is dependent upon, am I believing in the rule of God? What he's accomplishing now, even in a badly broken world that affects us personally a lot. We've sensed that as a church, of course. So, but this is how we praise, because we know who the Lord is and what kind of relationship we have. The theology in Psalm 100 verse 3 drives all of the noise and the volume of worship.
Yeah. Good. Anything else?
No, that's good.
Podcast at cbcmj.com.
If they just want to say hi?
Yep.
Okay.
If you want to say hi, just email that, whatever you want, to that email address. And we'll be happy to respond and not answer your questions. No, of course we'll answer your questions.
We will try.
We love the questions.
We will try.
I wanted to mention that earlier. I'm afraid the people are tuning out before I get to that and then never get to hear it.
They might.
I should maybe flop the jokes around, put the jokes at the end.
I heard the replace word.
Well,
I heard it. I heard it from you.
Switch. Because then people would definitely hang on to the very, very last second to get the punchline.
They want to know the joke.
Yes, they do.
They do.
Make people talk about it.
They do.
All right. Love you guys, and we'll see you on Sunday. Thanks again for joining us on today's episode. And remember, our Sunday sermons are meant to lead us to a life of worship beyond Sunday.